Om Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavividitam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Janaha. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we are on 16th October 1882, and we are continuing this day. We were on page 122. Page 122. So, in the middle of the page, Sri Ramakrishna sang and danced, and the devotees danced around him. When the song was over, the master walked up and down the northeast veranda, where Hazra was seated with M. The master sat down there. He asked a devotee, "Do you ever have dreams?" By which he means spiritual dreams. Devotee, "Yes, sir. The other day I dreamt a strange dream. I saw the whole world enveloped in water. There was water on all sides. A few boats were visible, but suddenly huge waves appeared and sank them. I was about to board a ship with a few others when we saw a Brahmin walking over that expanse of water. I asked him, 'How can you walk over the deep?' The Brahmin said with a smile, 'Oh, there is no difficulty about that. There is a bridge under the water.' I said to him, 'Where are you going?' 'To Bhavanipur, the city of the Divine Mother.' He replied. 'Wait a little,' I cried. 'I shall accompany you.' The master, 'Oh, I'm thrilled to hear the story.' Devotee, the Brahmin said, 'I am in a hurry. It will take you some time to get out of the boat. Goodbye. Remember this path and come after me.' Master, 'Oh, my hair is standing on end. Please be initiated by a guru as soon as possible.' Shortly before midnight, Narendra and other devotees lay down on a bed made on the floor of the master's room. At dawn, some of the devotees were up. They saw the master, naked as a child, pacing up and down the room, repeating the names of the various gods and goddesses. His voice was sweet as nectar. Now he would look at the Ganges, now stop in front of the pictures hanging on the wall and bow down before them, chanting all the while the holy names in his sweet voice. He chanted Veda, Purana, Tantra, Gita, Gayatri, Bhagavata, Bhakta, Bhagavan. Referring to the Gita, he repeated many times, Tagi, Tagi, Tagi. There's a footnote. This word is formed by reversing the letters of Gita. Tagi means one who has renounced. Renunciation is the import of this sacred book. Tagi, Tagi, Tagi. Now and then he would say, O Mother, thou art verily Brahman, and thou art verily Shakti. Thou art Purusha, and thou art Prakriti. Thou art Virat, thou art the Absolute, and thou dost manifest thyself as the relative. Thou art verily the 24 cosmic principles. In the meantime, the morning service had begun in the temple of Kali and Radhakanta. Sounds of conch shells and cymbals were carried on the air. The devotees came outside the room and saw the priests and servants gathering flowers in the garden for the divine service in the temples. From the Nahabat floated the sweet melody of musical instruments befitting the morning hours. Narendra and other devotees finished their morning duties and came back to the master. With a sweet smile on his lips, Sri Ramakrishna was standing on the northeast veranda close to his own room. Narendra, we noticed several sannyasis belonging to the sect of Nanak in the Panchavati. Master, yes, they arrived here yesterday. To Narendra, I'd like to see you all sitting together on the mat. As they sat there, The master looked at them with evident delight. He then began to talk with them. Narendra asked about spiritual discipline. Master, bhakti, love of God, is the essence of all spiritual discipline. Through love, one acquires renunciation and discrimination naturally. Narendra, isn't it true that the Tantra prescribes spiritual discipline in the company of women? Master, that is not desirable. It is a very difficult path and often causes the aspirant's downfall. There are three such kinds of discipline. One may regard woman as a footnote. Woman is the symbol of the Divine Mother. One may regard woman as one's mistress or look on oneself as her handmaid or as her child. I look on woman as my mother. To look on oneself as her handmaid is also good, but it is extremely difficult to practice spiritual discipline looking on woman as one's mistress. To regard oneself as her child is a very pure attitude. The sannyasis belonging to the sect of Nanak entered the room and greeted the master, saying, Namo Narayana. Um, Namo Narayanaya, there is a footnote, salutations to God. This is the way sadhus greet one another. Sri Ramakrishna asked them to sit down. Master, nothing is impossible for God. Nobody can describe his nature in words. Everything is possible for him. There lived at a certain place two yogis who were practicing spiritual discipline. The sage Narada was passing that way one day. Realizing who he was, one of the yogis said, "You have just come from God himself. What is he doing now?" Narada replied, "Why, I saw him making camels and elephants pass and repass through the eye of a needle." At this, the yogi said, "Is that anything to wonder at? Everything is possible for God." But the other yogi said, "What? Making elephants pass through the eye of a needle? Is that ever possible? You have never been to the Lord's dwelling place." At 9 o'clock in the morning, while the master was still sitting in his room, Manomohan arrived from Konnagar with some members of his family. In answer to Sri Ramakrishna's kind inquiries, Manomohan explained that he was taking them to Calcutta. The master said, "Today is the first day of the Bengali month, an inauspicious day for undertaking a journey. I hope everything will be well with you." With a smile, he began to talk of other matters. When Narendra and his friends had finished bathing in the Ganges, the master said to them earnestly, "Go to the Panchavati and meditate there under the banyan tree. Shall I give you something to sit on?" About past 10, Narendra and his Brahmo friends were meditating in the Panchavati. After a while, Sri Ramakrishna came to them. M too was present. The master said to the Brahmo devotees, "In meditation, one must be absorbed in God. By merely floating on the surface of the water, can you reach the gems lying at the bottom of the sea?" Then he sang, "Taking the name of Kali, dive deep down, O mind, into the heart's fathomless depths, where many a precious gem lies hid. But never believe that the bed of the ocean bare of gems. If in the first few dives you fail, with firm resolve and self-control, dive deep and make your way to Mother Kali's realm. Down in the ocean depths of heavenly wisdom lie the wondrous pearls of peace, O mind, and you yourself can gather them. But if you have pure love and follow the scriptures rule, and you yourself can gather them if you but have pure love and follow the scriptures rule. Within those ocean depths as well, 6 alligators lurk: lust, anger, and the rest is a footnote. The 6 passions: lust, anger, avarice, delusion, pride, and envy. Swimming about in search of prey. Smear yourself with the turmeric of discrimination. The very smell of it will shield you from their jaws. Upon the ocean bed lie strewn unnumbered pearls and precious gems. Plunge in, says Ram Prasad, and gather up handfuls there." All right, so that's enough to be going on with. Let's go back to page 122. And here Sri Ramakrishna asks the devotee, it is M himself actually, asks him, do you have dreams? And he said, yes, I had a strange dream. Whole world was enveloped in water. This is the Bhavasagar, the ocean of samsara. There was water on all sides. A few boats were visible, but the boats were sunk. That means people sinking in Bhavasagar. That's in this cycle of birth and death. He was about to board a ship with a few others. And he saw a Brahmin walking over the expanse of water. So the Brahmin, of course, is Sri Ramakrishna himself. And he asks, how can you walk over this deep ocean? How can you walk over the ocean? And Sri Ramakrishna says, there's no difficulty about that. There's a bridge under the water. The bridge also symbolizes Sri Ramakrishna, the avatar. The avatar is the bridge between the human and the divine. See, all those who are trying to take boats to cross the ocean, they are doomed. They were doomed means doomed to samsara. They'll keep repeating the same thing again and again. They'll sink in samsara. But there is a direct path, and that's enlightenment, God realization. And the most powerful way of doing that is to catch hold of the avatar. So that bridge under the water, which is not seen. You see a person, but actually that is God himself. It looks like a human being. So you catch hold of an avatar, take refuge in an avatar. And he asks, where are you going? To Bhavanipur. Now, Bhavanipur is actually a suburb of Calcutta. That's where the Kali temple is located. But literally, if you translate it literally, Bhavanipur, Bhavani is the divine mother, Pur is city, the city of the divine mother. That means I'm going to God, I'm going to the divine mother. To Bhavanipur, the city of the divine mother. He replied, wait a little. Wait a little, I cried. So this person who's dreaming, M probably, he says, I cried in my dream, wait, I want to join you, I shall accompany you. And the Brahmin replied, I'm in a hurry. That is the avatar, you can't go with me. It's very touching. I'm in a hurry, but here is the path. Remember this path. I'm showing you the path. Follow me. Time to get out of the boat means the path that you're already following in life. You are in this life, you're pursuing certain things in life, you have money and achievements in life, you have relationships and all of that. It will take you time to get out of it. But here is the path. I'm walking on it. Remember this carefully and follow me. And he says, goodbye. So this is the avatar who has, it is something that that applies to all of us. He has gone before us and he has shown us the path. In these books, we find the path taught in the texts, the scriptures, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, in the Gita, in all the texts of Vedanta, in fact, in all the core spiritual texts of all religions of the world. The path is there. It's a path under the water. And most powerful in all of this is, of course, the avatar himself. So Sri Ramakrishna is thrilled to hear this. He says, oh, my hair is standing on end. Please be initiated. Then, oh, this reminds me, I can't resist. It's such a profound dream, but I can't resist telling you this silly joke. So there's this story about the 3 Zen monks, and a novice comes, a young man comes to join the monastery. And the monastery is on an island. It's just a small few huts. And the island is connected to the mainland by, there's this bridge, you can cross across it. And this young man crosses the bridge, but he notices something strange. He sees these 3 old monks who live in the monastery. They don't even use the bridge. They just walk across the water. They just walk across the water to the other side. Then from the other side, they walk back across the water. And this young man is thinking, this is stunning. How, and they're doing it so casually. I must try it. So carefully, with great concentration, maybe it is something to do with breath control or some kind of meditative state, So he steps into the water and splash, he goes into the river itself. He comes out gasping for breath, and he tries again and again. He sinks. He tries in a different place. He sinks. Every time he tries, he sinks into the water. The three monks, old monks, are watching him carefully with expressionless faces. After some time, one of the monks turns to the other and says, "Shouldn't we tell him where the stones are under the water?" So there is a bridge of stones under the water on which the monks were stepping. Nothing mysterious about him, about that. There is another linked. Okay, two more things come to mind. One is the story of Totapuri. You know, the Totapuri, how he came to accept the power of the Divine Mother. One day he had, for a few days actually, he was suffering from stomach pain and a stomach trouble. He tried to meditate deeply, plunge his mind into samadhi, which he could do, and forget the pain of the body. But then he found he could not even do that. And so he had to suffer the pain of the body. Now, he thought ultimately, why should I continue to do this? I have realized Brahman. I know I am Brahman. This body is nothing to me. Why unnecessarily put up with so much trouble? And now my mind is also not responding. My mind is also becoming affected by the weakness of the body. So let me get rid of this body. I'm not the body anyway. It's nothing to me. So, and he decided to walk into the Ganga and drown the body. Don't take it as advice. Many people they suffer from depression, unhappiness, financial problem, this or that. So if Totapuri could do it, and then maybe I can do it also. I also don't want the one. No. The difference is this. Totapuri knew clearly that he is not the body, and he has realized God. He's realized his self-realized. He is a Jivan Mukta. Therefore, from his perspective, it is nothing. But for us, the body is very important because it is our vehicle for God realization. It is our vehicle for spiritual. It's a vehicle for everything, from worldly life, of course, and even God realization. Without the body, you can't come for Vedanta class also. So, don't attempt that. Anyway, Totapuri, in the dead of the night on the bank of Dakshineshwar, he walked into the river, Ganga, and thought he would go in, and at one point he would sink and drown. And he walked in further and further, and it didn't seem to go above his waist, or the water didn't go very high. And then he came out. He could see the lights of the city on the other side. He saw the lights of the city of Calcutta on the other side, and he came out without having drowned at all. In fact, at no point was he in any great danger at all. He was stunned, and he returned maybe by the same way. And then he went straight to the temple of Divine Mother, that I cannot even give up this body. That I cannot even plunge my mind in meditation. I cannot even give up this body. None of it is happening by my will. That's the realization he got, and he accepted that. Whatever happens, Brahman is the ultimate reality, no doubt about that, he had realized. But whatever happens in this field of manifestation, worldly manifestation, body, life, death, spiritual manifestation, samadhi, mind, meditation, in fact, his own Vedantic realization also, all of it, A to Z, is in the realm of the Divine Mother, is the realm of Shakti. Anything you want here, it's under the realm of the Divine Mother. Yes, underneath it, Brahman is the same reality always, and you are that. So this is another story about walking across the river. Just because we are talking about walking across the river. And another very touching story I'd read, I think, I'm not sure if it is Dostoevsky or Tolstoy, one of the Russian authors. There's it's a story of, I think it's in the Crimean Sea or the Black Sea or somewhere, in the 19th century, a very high official of the church, the Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox Church, like a bishop or an archbishop, he's going from one city to another by ship. And the captain of the crew of the ship are, of course, they're feeling very blessed that such a high official of the church is with them. And so they're going on the ship, and then the captain says to the bishop, Holy Father, would you be interested? There is a small island and 3 hermits live there. They're very austere old men, and they meditate there, they pray there with their hearts. They're very simple people. I don't know if you would be worth your time, but they would be very happy to see you. Do you want us to stop for a moment and see? And the bishop said, of course, I'm always willing to give some time for people who are devout Christians. So they stopped, and then they took a boat and they went to that island. And they could see that these three old men wearing ragged clothes. One had a long beard, and the second one had an even longer beard, and the third one had the longest beard. And they were all unkempt, and they were standing in awe to see this bishop with his gorgeous robes and all come. They immediately fell on their knees and they bowed down before him again and again. The bishop was very touched by the simplicity and said, rise up and tell me about yourself. What have you been doing? And said, oh, so many years, decades we have been here and praying to God. Of course, we don't know anything. We're very ignorant people. How do you pray? Tell me, and I will help you. So they said, we prayed Lord's Prayer, our Father in heaven. And they started, but they couldn't complete it. They were making mistakes here and there. Actually, they said, we just say, we pray to, oh God, bless us sinners. Bless us sinners, like that. We just play one line like that. And then the bishop said, no. You are such devout people. Let me teach you the proper prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Let me teach it to you. So our Father in heaven, it's a long prayer. He teaches it, and they stumble. They can't remember the words. They make mistakes. The bishop is very patient with them. The captain is getting impatient that we should go back now to the ship. And why are you wasting your time on these fellows? Finally, he makes them repeat the whole the Lord's Prayer. And they are so happy that so many years later, they have understood, they've got the proper prayer. And they're so, full of appreciation, gratitude to the bishop. They keep bowing down to him, keep kissing his feet, kissing his hands. And the bishop is also happy that I could help these people. They are such devout people. So they got on the ship, on the boat, and they sailed back to the ship, and the ship weighs anchor. And as far as they could see, the three men were standing there, waving them goodbye. They were so happy, and they were continuously repeating the Lord's Prayer, which they had learned today. So the ship sailed on the high seas. It was night, dark night, moonlit actually. And the bishop is in his cabin, which is the best cabin in the ship. And suddenly he hears a hammering on the door. Holy Father, wake up, wake up. And he gets up and he says, oh, what happened? The captain looks terrified. He says, please come up to the deck of the ship. And he goes up to the deck of the ship. It's moonlit, dark night, the ocean waves all around. And he sees all the sailors have gathered on one side of the ship, and they are very scared. They're crossing themselves, and they say, what's wrong? Look, Father, look. And he sees, he's stunned to see across the waves, which are lit up by moonlight. He can see these three strange figures of these old men with the long beards and hair flying. They're racing across the waves towards the ship. And he's stunned, and he's like his very hair stands on its end, and he tells, stop the ship, let them come. Everybody is very scared. And these three old men, they come walking across the ocean, and they come to the ship. They let down a ladder, and the sailors are all very terrified. They shrink back from these people. They found, who are these people? And the bishop is also very nervous, and he says, what is the matter? How or why have you come? And they fall at his feet and they wail. They say, forgive us, we are poor fools. You are so kind to us. You taught us this wonderful prayer, and we are such fools. By now, we have already started forgetting this word, that word. And please teach us again how to actually pray to God. And the bishop is now very ashamed, and he says, no, please forgive me. You bless us. You bless me. You bless all of us. You don't need to learn anything from us. We only need your prayers. They are very simple folk. They say, if you say so, whatever you say. And then they bid them farewell, the ship's crew. They get down from the ship and casually walk back across the ocean to their little island. And so the bishop and the crew and the captain, they stand in stunned silence looking at them. So this idea about, the formal prayer and the formulae which you learn, and the actual spirituality of, so the symbol of walking across water, the same symbol which is shown here. Then a beautiful description, early morning, when they wake up, Sri Ramakrishna is already up. He hardly slept, just a few hours, maybe 1 or 2 hours a night. And he would chant. Early in the morning, he would chant. Sometimes he would clap his hands. Sometimes he would walk up and down. Veda, Purana, Tantra, Gita, Gayatri, Bhagavata, Bhakta, Bhagavan. The Bhagavata, Bhakta, Bhagavan, you know who chants this? Here in the ashram, Bill Conrad. Many of you may not, those who know him, he's 97 now. After every arati, he will chant Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai, Mahamai ki Jai, Swami Ji Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Then he will add, which we all do, then he adds that Jai Raja Maharaj Ji ki Jai, Jai to Swami Brahmananda, because his guru Swami Pavitranji was a disciple of Swami Brahmananda. And then occasionally he adds this Bhakta Bhagavat Bhakta Bhagavan ki Jai. Bhagavat is scripture, Bhakta is devotee, Bhagavan is God. So victory to or all praise the scriptures and the devotees and God. You are Brahman, you are Shakti, Divine Mother herself as Brahman, Saguna Brahman, and you are the Shakti. You are Purusha and Prakriti. You are Virat. Virat means pure consciousness associated with this entire universe. This is where Vedanta Sar comes in useful. What is the concept of Virat? Ultimate reality is pure consciousness, Brahman. Associated with Maya, that pure consciousness is called Ishvara, God. Associated further with the products of Maya, this entire cosmic mind, that same pure consciousness is now called Hiranyagarbha. Associated with the entire physical universe, that same pure consciousness is now called Virat, or the vast. This Virat is what Arjuna saw in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which he called Vishwarupa Darshan, the vision of the universal form of God. That is Virat. He saw God as this entire universe. He says, Mother, you are the Virat. You are the absolute, as Nirguna Brahman. You also manifest as the relative, that is Saguna Brahman and this entire universe. Thou art verily the 24 cosmic principles. This is Sankhya philosophy. What are the 24 cosmic principles? The 5 elements, earth, fire, water, air, and space, in their subtle forms. Pancha Tanmatra it is called. Then the 5 sense organs, or the sense capacities, and the 5 motor organs, Gyanendriya, Karmendriya. How much does that make? 15. Then the 5 objects of the senses. Objects of senses means, what is the object of eyes? Form. The object of ears? Sound. The object of the tactile sense? Touch. The object of smell, that is fragrance, and taste. The object of the tongue. The 5 sense objects. So you have got 5 plus 5 plus 5, 20. Then there is the abhyakta, the unmanifest state of Prakriti. Then there is buddhi, the intellect, and the ahankara, ego, and then finally the manas, the mind. So these 24, 4, and then 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, 20, 24. Beyond all this is, so all of this is Prakriti. All of this is nature. Beyond all this is Purusha, consciousness. You are consciousness, or each of us is, but we get mixed up with all these products of Prakriti. And he's saying, Divine Mother, you are the 24 cosmic principles. You are Purusha and Prakriti. You are consciousness and the object of consciousness. All right. Description of early morning in the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. The sound of conscious Shankadhvani and the music from the temples of Kali. Radhakanta is Krishna, the Krishna temple, Radha and Krishna temple. Then there's the Shiva temples also. And very soon the puja will start. Then it notices sadhus coming. So sadhus of monks of various sects would pass through Dakshineshwar. You just noticed that several Nanak Panthi sadhus were coming. Sri Narendra asks about spiritual discipline. And he says, love of God is the essence of all spiritual discipline. All of that, or everything ultimately is achieved through love of God. Love of God, intense desire for God. What about Vedanta then? Shankaracharya accepts it. In Vedanta also, he redefines bhakti. He changes the paradigm. He says that swaswarupa anusandhanam, that intense desire to realize my real nature, which Vedanta says, I am Brahman. I don't know that. I don't feel that. How do I realize that? That intense desire, that intense inquiry. That is bhakti in Vedanta. And of course, love of God. Bhakti in the dualistic systems or theistic systems. Then he talks about some tantric practices. So there's certain tantric practices, Sri Ramakrishna. Notice, he doesn't say that they are not false. This is all of these tantric practices, they lead to enlightenment. And so this is something that was prevalent, especially in parts of Bengal. And later on, from there, it went to Tibet. So in Tibetan Buddhism, it's interesting. Hinduism, Tantra, which talks about God, the Divine Mother. Tibetan Buddhism, which originally Buddhism doesn't even talk about an permanent self or any God, but the practices are similar. The practices are very, very similar. And they have a common source, there's no doubt about it. Sri Ramakrishna says, the pure attitude is to regard yourself as the child of God, as child of the Divine Mother. Namo Narayanaya. So that is a sound which, if you're a monk, especially in the Himalayas and all, you'll all hear again and again. All the monks greet each other by that. Bow down to Narayana in the form of this living being, this monk who has come. Verily, Narayana himself has come in this form. I bow down to Narayana. And then he tells the monks that nothing is impossible for God. Nobody can describe his nature in words, beyond words. Everything is possible for God. And then he shows two attitudes to this. One is completely devoted, the yogi who understands this, that God is beyond causality. So everything is possible for God. Within causality means X causes Y. Every effect has a cause. It has to be explained. If you can't explain it, then it's impossible. But that's within causality. And the ultimate reality is beyond causality. So the first yogi is much wiser. When Narada, to test the yogi probably, the yogi says, oh, you are Narada. You know the story of Narada is always going to the abode of God. He's going to Vaikuntha to meet Narayana. So these yogis ask, so what's going on there? In heaven, what's God doing in heaven? And Narada, probably to test their understanding and their faith, he says, oh, he's making what pass through the eye of a needle? Camels and elephants pass and repass through the eye of a needle, which is supposed to be impossible. In this tiny space, how can an elephant pass through that? The first yogi says, well, what's the wonder in that? God can do everything. And so this is not foolish faith. This is actually a deeper understanding. And the other yogi who uses our more linear thinking, more causality thinking. It's impossible. How is that possible? Elephants are so big. Camels are so big. How can they pass through the eye of a needle? God can't do that. So there are limits to what God can do or cannot do. And he says, and therefore you have not seen God. You're just making it up. You have not been to the abode of the Lord. Again, funny story here. Let me just share. I met this monk in Gangotri. Among the many wonderful monks I met, one was this Swami whose name I never learned. He had, everybody called him Antenna Baba. So Antenna Baba, why an Antenna Baba? He had his begging bowl. He kept it scrupulously clean and polished and sparkling. It's a metal bowl. So he would take it out and beg whatever food was given to him in that bowl. He would eat. Then he would clean it with Ganga water and dry it out. And then he would put it on his head and tie his turban around it. That's where he would keep his bowl. Now, in those days, dish antennas were in vogue in India to catch the satellite. Nowadays, I don't think you don't see them now. You could see them on top of roofs. People who wanted to catch the signal from the satellites, different channels of TV. So dish antenna was popular. So this is a play on the dish antenna. He has got a dish which looks like an antenna put on his head. Everybody called him Antenna Baba. Now this Antenna Baba had a peculiarity. He would tell you what God was doing in heaven. So the others would ask him, so what's the menu today in heaven? And he would reel out And it will all be suspiciously the menu like which we were having, with puri, laddu, and all of these things, dal. So that's what they are having in heaven today. So every day he had some kind of story about what's going on in heaven. Anyway, so he was very funny. He was very, very simple. I'll tell you two, three stories about his simplicity. He was very humble. He would never sit on a chair or the bed. When we other monks would be sitting on a chair or a bed, he would always sit on the carpet or on the bare floor, which is a big deal there because it's very cold there. And he would never ever sit at the same level with the rest of us. Although he was older than us, I think. I heard his story that he was actually a policeman, and then he found out some corruption among the policemen there, and he complained, or he fought back against it, and in disgust he left that service. He was very straightforward, very honest kind of man, and then he became a wandering monk. And his spiritual practices were odd, to say the least, because every day he was engaged in something which was different every day. Some days he would perform a homa, a sacred fire. He would light on the bank of the Ganga and go on all day until until noon, several hours. Someday he would just repeat a mantra sitting on the bank of the Ganga. He was odd, but I saw his depth. One day we were sitting together, and an old monk was telling me, out of kindness, Nanakpanthi, he would belong. They say the Nanakpanthi monks have come. This monk belonged to the Nanakpanthi. He was a Nanakpanthi monk, old Swami, Punjabi. He told me, Swami, you are studying late in the night. You will ruin your eyesight if you do that. Here you study in the morning as much as you can, as long as sunlight is there. Go into your hut at night and meditate through the night. Don't study through the night. So I just nodded. I was studying the Mandukya Karika in those days. I just nodded. And then we came out, and I saw this Antenna Baba following me. He never spoke. He was so humble. He would never ever say anything in front of others. Like, it's almost like, who am I to say anything? I'm just here to listen. As we came out of the hut, out of earshot of the other monks, he came to me and he said this. I will translate. He'll tell you. He told me in the Hindi. I can clearly see the scene in my mind's eye. He said, "आप पढ़िए, जो उधर समझ में नहीं आता है, वो इधर समझ में आ जाएगा. आप पढ़िए. Please go on studying. What you cannot understand there, down means down in the plains, you will get it here. So go on studying." And then he walked away. But he was absolutely right. He was absolutely right. So I remember that. Many wonderful monks. I mean, I still remember the little bits of advice. It turned out to be absolutely right. I mean, so what extraordinary insight, at least into spiritual life and the psychology of spiritual seekers. All right. And then talks about meditation, complete absorption in God. By merely floating on the surface of water, can you reach the gems lying at the bottom of the sea? Yes. Deep absorption. And that absorption requires two things: regular practice and complete dispassion. You must untie the anchor. The story of the boat and the anchor. I think this is the time when we've been talking about it. In the Bhagavad Gita also, Arjuna asks that these meditation techniques are not working. What can we do? And Krishna says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihate. Oh Arjuna, by regular, systematic, long-term practice and by dispassion, your mind will come under control. Meditation, deep meditation, samadhi, all of that will become possible, he says. I was just reading, Swami Sarvapriyananda talks about that, yes, we saw Sri Ramakrishna, of course, in samadhi and deep meditation, but he mentions Gopalirma, the Brahmin widow who was a devotee of the child Gopala. And he said how she practiced year after year, decade after decade, 16 hours of japa and meditation every day. 16 hours out of 24 hours. A whole day, not a few days. Going and sitting in a cave in Himalayas, no. in that little room of hers on the bank of the Ganga, decade after decade. I think for 30 years she did that. And the result was she had continuous one. He's saying, Sadhanaji, that's like Sri Ramakrishna, having the vision of the Ram Lala, the child Rama. She had the continuous vision of Gopala, the child Gopala, God in the form of a child. So, abhyasa, this is continuous, systematic, serious practice. Much less, we don't have to do that. These are demonstrations for us. Swami Brahmananda says, repeat the mantra 2000 times a day. After 3 years, you come back and tell me that nothing has happened. You can come and slap me if nothing has happened to you. No, you have nobody ever came back and slapped. So either they did not do it 2000 times a day, or they did it and got some benefit, so they didn't have to come and slap him. So that is abhyasa. Vairagya, dispassion. Some of the monks, that's one of the reasons one should read their lives. There was an old monk called Satchidananda. He was a contemporary of the direct disciples. He saw Vivekananda. All the other monks used to call him Buddha Baba because he was older than the direct disciples also. He had not seen Sri Ramakrishna, but he saw Vivekananda, Brahmananda and all. He used to live in Kashi, Banaras. And there are so many stories of how austere. He used to wander from place to place without any money. He would never accept money. Devotees would give him money out of respect. He would throw it in the Ganga. Whatever you do, he would accept it. He would not, scold you or anything. But if you forced that money on him, he would quickly walk to the river and throw it into the Ganga. He would wander from place to place, begging for food, sleeping under a tree with one cloth, not even a shirt, just one cloth on his body. Complete dependence on God. Now, what is the point of so much austerity? This is vairagya, complete dependence on God. And he said that at one point Swami Vivekananda thought maybe the boy has become mad. And so he said and with tears in his eyes, later he would say, this old monk Satchidananda, he said, Swami Vivekananda caught me by the hand and said, won't you come and stay in the ashram that I have started? Come and do work here. Take care of the sick people. It is a hospital. And with that same intensity, Satchidananda came and started working in the hospital. Anyway, that's a different story. But vairagya, that intense dispassion. Another story, I don't know why I'm remembering it just now. This is in our ashram in Haridwar. That's also a hospital. So one monk whom I did not meet, this was before my time. So the different forms that dispassion can take. If you give him money, this is a spiritual practice. So if you give him money, don't give him money, because if you give him money, what he will do is immediately he'll walk to the station in Haridwar and he'll go to the station master, and the station master knows his habit. He will extend his hand he won't even say anything. He will give the money, whatever is there, he will take the money and give it to the station master. And the station master has to buy him a ticket, a railway ticket, one-way railway ticket, random, with whatever that money can buy. And with that ticket, he will get on the train, wherever it will take him. When it goes to the end, he will get down from there, and then he'll walk back to the ashram across India, begging his food, staying under trees. So the devotees quickly learn not to give him any money. He would be terrified of giving. He would set off on one of those tapasya, those trips. Again, be careful. Don't try it on your own. You need, one monk told me, be careful of these stories. You need an iron body and iron constitution. You're going to get sick if you try that. I think our senior monks were compassionate. I still remember the monk I joined under, my superior. As a new brahmachari, he asked me and some others, novices, so can you walk from here to the ashram nearby, which was about maybe 50 or 100 kilometers? Can you walk there, no money, and begging for your food, sleeping under the tree? And we are young people, so we said, yes, of course, we can do that. But he was very affectionate. He said, all right, that's good, but you don't have to do it. He told us not to do it. Yes. So dispassion. These two things are necessary for deep meditation. Have the dispassion, and after that, regular, serious practice. They're connected. If dispassion is there, you cannot, if not there, dispassion is not there, you cannot practice. You can't. Why would you want to sit and repeat a mantra for 16 hours a day for the best part of your life? Mind will immediately tell you there are much more interesting things to do, much more pleasurable things to do, much more important things to do. So dispassion makes you say, this is the most important thing. Nothing compares to this. So this is dispassion. Yoga Vasishta, they give you a technique for meditation. This one suggestion you should give to the mind when you sit for meditation. Oh mind, whatever you can think of, I am not interested. And what I am interested in, you cannot think of it. I'm interested in the Atman. And you can, whatever you can tell me, I'm not interested. Good, bad, ugly. But what kind of mind can you tell this to? The mind which is surcharged with dispassion, with vairagya. Otherwise, the mind will continuously pull you out. So that continuous practice also depends on dispassion. And dispassion also depends on continuous practice. If you do once in a while, the mind will engage itself in other things, and then it will get colored by the world. In fact, vairagya, removing raga, that means another literal meaning of the term would be removing the color of the world. The world colors your mind. Removing the color of the world from the mind is dispassion. Let me see, there are some comments. Ashok says, what kind of spiritual development you need to have a dream like that? In a spiritual path, you will, all of us, you will all get some such dream. One sign of a spiritual dream is that it is regarding some spiritual thing, maybe about a guru, maybe about your Ishta Devata, maybe about something which is spiritual, maybe about a temple or a place of pilgrimage, something. One unique feature of that, it will be about a spiritual subject, somehow related to that. It will be uplifting and you will remember it. Most dreams, when we wake up, we forget. Even if you remember it very soon, you forget. This dream is, you will consider it, it will be a memory. You'll consider it as a valuable memory, which you'll probably remember all your life. So many spiritual seekers have these dreams. These are signs of a sattvic mind and spiritual seeking. Why these are different, these dreams? They're still dreams. Vedanta is very strict on logic. They're still dreams. But it's something that comes from the cosmic mind. It's not just a generation from the subconscious mind in our mind. It's something that comes from the Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic mind. It's a sign of blessings. You might take it that way. You see a holy man, and don't think that the holy man is appearing in your dreams. The holy man may know nothing about it at all. It is just a spiritual inspiration that comes to your mind, but it takes, the mind puts these forms on that inspiration. It comes from the cosmic mind, and your mind also contributes something to it. It might be a particular holy man or something like that. Then there's the story of the milk. Prabir Babu says the story of the milk woman and her guru. Yes, who would come to, deliver milk, and she used to get late, and then she repeated name of Krishna, and it would come across the river, and the guru couldn't believe it. So the guru said, let me try it. And he takes the name of Krishna and tries to cross the river, but he lifts his dhoti so that it won't get wet. And he goes down into the river and sinks like with a big splash. So you can't have faith on God and also lift your dhoti a little bit. You're expecting maybe, just let me be sure. So that kind of faith. The meaning of that is faith. The meaning of that is not walking on water. Sangeeta says, what do you believe is the single biggest reason for Gopal Verma to be motivated to do that kind of Nama Japa Abhyas for 30 years? Devotion, bhakti. And the single biggest reason would be past lives. It does not come in one life. That kind of automatic. When she started, she must have been a young girl. And so that kind of automatic devotion, which becomes primary. And everything else in her life becomes rearranged for that. Even her becoming a widow. So that she has no connection to samsara. Then she is left alone. Yes, in poverty, no doubt. But she doesn't feel it. She is just completely left alone to herself and undisturbed. And she has this room and a worship of Gopala and a mind to do that. If The rest of us, most of us, we are given that kind of situation. Now you're free. Please repeat the name of Gopala for 30 or 16 hours a day. What will happen to us is mostly we will feel that we'll feel bored. We'll feel deprived. We'll say we have been, deprived of the world and our relatives, or so much money was owed to me. Nobody sends me Christmas cards, and this place has no Wi-Fi. All these we will complain. That's the mind. Swami Vivekananda was taken on a tour in France when he was touring Europe. So there was a place where there's political prisoners who were exiled by the king of France. They were kept there in cages and maybe forgotten for the rest of their life. So tourists go there. Even now they go to see that. And Swami Vivekananda's reaction was, what a wonderful place for meditation. If you're locked up in this little cage and forgotten, nobody will care for you and nobody bothers about you, and nobody will come to you for the rest of your life. What a terrible situation that is. And Vivekananda says, what a wonderful place for meditation. But that requires a mind like that. Often our great Swamis, we hear from our senior Swamis, such and such Swami, we say, how did he accomplish so much? I mean, how did he advance so much in spiritual life? And the answer they will give in Bengali, okay, Ekjonmer Sadhu. Is it a monk in one life? Is it that he became a monk in this present life? He's been a spiritual seeker in past lives also. Dima says, what parts of mind engage in meditation? Seeing thoughts, being fooled by them, breaking free from thoughts. True, this is the mind itself. And there's been some neuroscience research on this. In the book Focus by Daniel Goleman, he talks about the neuroscience of meditation and how these stages where you make an intent, I will now focus on, say for example, a mantra. Sit quietly, focus on a mantra. One part of this, the neocortex, lights up, some part of it, some set of neurons. Then the mind gets distracted. Another part lights up. When the mind gets, there's a sign of distraction in the mind. So lights up means in your neurons. And then the mind wanders, making from one jump to another jump to another jump. That is mind wandering. You see how I did that when we talked about the Brahmins, the dream of this devotee about the Brahmin walking on water. And from there I went to Totapuri. From there I went to the joke about the Zen monks. From there we went to the three stories about the story about the three Christian monks. And then Prabir Babu was reminded of the milk maid and her guru. So this is the mind jumping. This is a link. This is follow the link. The mind is wandering. Then next stage comes, there's a recognition. Suddenly recognition kicks in. Oh, I'm not repeating the mantra. What am I thinking about? And then the next thing is there's an effort to bring the mind back to the mantra and hold on to that. So this entire cycle, there's actually the different components of the mind which are doing that. And they're reflected in the fascinating thing is that each of these cycles, which any meditation text, Buddhist and yogic texts, they all talk about these stages of movement of the mind. And yogis knew this. But what we now know is that they are actual, they're real in the sense they are reflected, they have the neural correlates. fMRI scans have confirmed that. And Daniel Goleman speaks about this. It's very wonderful. He traces each step, and this is what is happening in the brain actually. How to go from that to the real self? Aha. Now it's a question after my own mind. That's all that I really want to talk about. How to go from the movements of the mind to the real self. Let me give you 2 or 3 quick examples. Going from there to the real self, Rupert Spira, he gave a couple of good examples. He said in meditation, going from the activity of the mind, even the meditative activity of the mind to the real self. He says it's like reading a book. So page, there are these black letters, printed letters on the page. And somebody points out the page to you, the white page on which the letters are printed. So it's like going from the reading the letters of the page on the page to suddenly becoming aware of the page on which they are printed. Similarly, thoughts, emotions, perceptions, ego sense, memory. These are the stream which is coming. They're like the letters. And the white page is like consciousness in which they're appearing and disappearing. That's a good example. He actually quotes the poet Shelley, who uses the beautiful phrase, the white radiance of eternity. What is consciousness? What is the real self? It's the white radiance of eternity. Aurobindo paraphrases that. He calls it, what is consciousness? The white glare of an immortal gaze. Stunning language. Imagine our gaze, these eyes, but imagine immortal gaze, the gaze of God. And what is that gaze of God? It's a white glare. That is consciousness itself, pure consciousness. That's one example. Another example is movie and the screen. So, movie is going on, that's activity of the mind. Imagine the movie stops, the images fade away. That transition, the images fading away, leaving only the screen there. That transition is meditation. Movie going on is normal thinking. But the fading away of normal thinking and the coming into prominence of the background, that is how meditation takes you to the real self. But this is yogic method. This is chitta vritti nirodha, the cessation of the activities of the mind. But the Vedantic method, from going from there to the real self, is let the movie go on, let the letters be printed on the page. Can you not distinguish the page and the letters when the letters are there? You can. Can you not see the screen when the movie is going on? Do you need to switch off the movie? No. In there. So that is, they have used the way of viveka, what do you call it? Discernment. Discernment between thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, and the consciousness where they arise and play around and disappear. Viveka. These are two ways. One is the way of yoga, which is the fading away of the movie, or cessation of thoughts. That's one. The other is the way of jnana, where everything is going on. You are pointed out. The background is pointed out. You learn to see the difference between the two. And that jnana is also just Sankhya jnana. Beyond that is Advaita jnana. First, you learn to see the difference between mind and the self, mind and Atman. And then you see the mind is nothing but the Atman. That is Advaita. If you see the difference between mind and Atman, that is yoga, that is Sankhya. But then finally you see the oneness, that Atman alone is appearing as mind and the universe. And then it is Advaita. Krishnamurti Vishwanathan says, Ram Sukdas, 6th chapter of Sadhak Sanjeevani says, if thoughts arise during sadhana, one should attribute them to the mind, which is an autonomous thing separate from us, and just ignore them. Yes. It's a very Sankhyan approach. Prakriti, universe, body, senses, mind, all of it is Prakriti. And I am the separate witness of it. So thoughts arise, I am the separate witness of it. It's nothing to me. Don't be swept away by them. It's a very Sankhyan approach. Actually, if you deliberately minimize and suppress the thoughts, there are techniques for that. That is the yogic approach. Chitta vritti nirodha. Nirodha is yogic approach. Viveka is the Sankhyan approach. And from the Sankhyan approach to Advaita, oneness is the Advaita approach. Akhanda. But first of all, you need either the Nirodha or the Sankhyan approach to go to the Akhanda. You can't jump to the oneness suddenly. Goleman, yes. Daniel Goleman, the one who popularized EQ, emotional intelligence, the same one. He wrote this book, Focus. I recommend that book. It's a pretty good book. Of course, more books have been written on that same subject now, but he wrote that specially because he was approached by many worried teachers and parents, even corporate, those who hire young people and young people themselves. He calls it the epidemic of inattention, which is going around now. Jennifer says, seeing my mom lose her brain function to dementia seems like the worst thing for a spiritual seeker. One can no longer use the mind, brain for sadhana. Is there no potential for spiritual progress? Yes and no. One is because I cannot do anything with the mind. cannot do anything with the body, so very little remains. But even then, to some extent, people can do. I have seen monks in the worst conditions, paralyzed. I'm giving you some examples earlier. One hand paralyzed, both legs paralyzed, blind in both eyes, but mind is functioning, and so repeating mantra. I have seen monks in coma, and yet they have given indications that something inside is going on. I have seen monks in advanced stages of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, for example. I saw one, I remember, Vidyadhar Maharaj, Nirlepanandaji. But you see, this is at the end of one's life, and so much sickness and disease, but it is what they have been doing all their life. You can't start at that point. So this one Swami I saw, I mentioned him earlier also. I saw him when I joined the order. He was this very odd monk. I mean, you might say monks are odd, yes, in general, but among odd monks also, he was odder than the rest of us. A very austere person, very austere. He used to stammer a little. I can give one example of his austerity. Once, that comet was in the air, in space. I think Hale-Bopp, or not Halley's comet, Hale-Bopp, one of the comets. And we were young brahmacharis in this little in the big ashram actually, and it was a sort of away from the big cities. So the night skies were spectacular at night, especially when no electricity was there and the lights were switched off. No lights were there, so we could see. And at that time, it was very spectacular. You could see the comet in the sky, blazing across the sky for a few days. So I, another young brahmachari, we were standing on the roof of the monastery and admiring the stars and this comet. We didn't know that this old Swami was sitting in the darkness behind us on a bench, wooden bench. And a stammering voice suddenly came out of the darkness. It is just so, even more beautiful on the pathways of the Himalayas. We were a little startled. We said, what? But how would you see this in the Himalayas, on the pathways of the Himalayas? He said, oh, so many times, in the summer, I have slept under the trees on the Himalayan mountains. And I could see all these stars like across from peak to peak, shining there. So this Swami, in his old age, he got Parkinson's disease. It was pretty advanced. Sometime before he died, I saw him in the hospital, went to visit him. And he was lying, and he hardly had any control over his limbs. He was lying there with his eyes large and sort of bugging out. And so many of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. His speech was very mumbled. I bent over him and I asked, Maharaj, come on, Asyan, how are you, Swami? Which is a stupid question to ask. Obviously, he's doing poorly. And he said something like, Kashto, it's suffering, pain or suffering. I don't know what came over me. I just, that same thing which Hari Maharaj told Sri Ramakrishna, but I see that you're in great joy. And when Sri Ramakrishna had cancer, we have all read the story. So I just said it like a parrot. I just said, but Maharaj, I see that you're in great joy. And this monk, he knew Bengali, but he was not Bengali, he was Marathi. And this monk was lying on the bed. He sat up, ramrod straight, with eyes still, bugging big eyes. And he mumbled, Anando, Ananda, and his face beamed. I still remember. It was so startling. That picture is that last face, the memory of his face. It's beaming with joy. His smile and glowing face. And the next moment, he collapsed back into the bed again. So it is possible under circumstances you might not think spiritual practice or spiritual thought current is possible. And I've seen this in senior monks who are dying, maybe 1 or 2 days from death. I've seen them repeating the mantra. Nothing else is working, but the hands are moving. This I've seen again and again. This lifelong practice. There might not be much other function left, but this is going on. So something is going on inside. Number of senior monks who passed, we saw so many such different signs. One monk, I was in the hospital all day long. He would lie. I think he was sedated or something, whatever. He had terminal stomach cancer. So he was suffering, but he never said anything all night. But at night, he would talk to the Divine Mother, Holy Mother. You might say he was doing it on his mind. Probably, I didn't see anybody else, but it was a dark hospital ward, and I was in the next bed, so I could hear him. I was young, so I didn't, lying in the bed all day long, I didn't get sleep at night. So I would see this man who's dying, old monk who's dying of terminal stomach cancer, is saying to the Holy Mother, I still remember whispering in Bengali that there's so much pain, mom, let the body go. What? Not now, after a few days. All right. So as if he's talking to the mother. But I of course, I did not hear anything from the other side. Next morning, quite like that. No reaction, does not speak to anybody, doctors, nurses, nothing. No food, no reaction, nothing, just lying there. I left the hospital. A few days later, he actually did pass. So it is possible. All right. Now you might say, even if nothing is possible, remember one thing. Actually, spiritual practice and spiritual progress does not depend on our mantra, our jnana, none of that. God is there, and the grace of God is always there. When we cannot do anything for ourselves, God will take care of you. Surely, there's no doubt about it. So that is the real source of strength, inspiration, spiritual practice. God, not our own efforts. Of course, we should make our own efforts all through life. What will you do? So as the Holy Mother said, if God has given you fingers, my child, use them to count the names, the mantra, like count the mantra, use them. But actually, it depends on God. You can help, others can help, play holy music, chanting, read to them, even if you think they're not listening or understanding. Focus, the hidden driver of excellence. Yes, thank you, Rodrigo. That's the book. Rekha Kalikar is saying, how can the explanation that you gave to Dima about going to the real self apply in the case of devotional meditation when one meditates on the Ishta, repeating the mantra? There you meditate on the Ishta, repeating the mantra. Visualize. Keep on repeating the mantra. Pay as much attention as you can. Do as much of it as you can. Visualize the Ishta Devata going from the feet up to the body and then to the face. Always joyful, radiant. You do that. Then it will happen by itself. Tanuka Ghoshal says, perhaps spiritual lectures, kirtans, mantras can be played exactly to people whose brains are not working. The vibrations will be helpful, provide some spiritual benefit. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that is helpful. Shri says, physicians often report a terminal lucidity in dementia patients a few hours or days before passing. Yeah, which means the capacity is there. The capacity is there. I've heard of at least one case where it was suppressed, and it is the head of the neuroscience department who said this in a conference. They said that this lady, and she was a Bengali lady, she had a terrible automobile accident. She was transferred to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi. She was in coma, in a vegetative state almost, and not on life support though. So one day, the young doctor doing the rounds, checking on the state of the serious patients. So he was walking past her bed and he was humming a Rabindra Sangeet. And he couldn't remember the next line. He sang the first line, the second line, and the first line again, and again he sang the first line, but not remembering the second line. And this lady, who was non-responsive, she sang the second line. He was so stunned, he checked her vitals, no response. He called the head who actually told us the entire story. We came and we found no response at all. And what was more shocking was that lady died a couple of days later. And when they performed an autopsy, they examined the brain, they found the brain had died long ago. There's nothing left there. It's all smashed. How can a person whose brain has been destroyed, physically destroyed, how can they hear and understand and recall and then use the entire vocal apparatus to actually sing out a line? This is, he said, it is simply not possible. The and it's the head of the Neuroscience Institute. And he said, we just simply suppressed this. He didn't say suppress, we just ignored the whole thing, because we have no way of explaining this at all. But in Vedanta or Sankhya, for example, it is the subtle body which has all these powers. So in some way, maybe it could reactivate the physical body for just one more last effort. The powers of memory, of all these capacities, 5 sense organs, 5 motor organs, these are capacities in the subtle body, and they use the apparatus of the physical body. Anyway, so all that is very interesting. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. I think Prabir Babu had raised a hand. I forgot to ask.
To ask you a question about your talk a couple of weeks ago on Swami Nikhilananda ji, and you talked about how Sri Ramakrishna actually wrote something on his tongue, and you said that was Shambhavi initiation.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions. One is that, did Thakur always give that kind of initiation, or did he actually give initiation and by the mantri type of initiation?
That also is a mantra initiation. In fact, Saradananji tells, I think Nikhilananda asked about this exact same question to Swami Saradananji, and Swami Chaitananji has recorded this in his this Bengali recollections of senior monks. And Swami Saradananji told Swami Nikhilananda that this is called Shambhavi Diksha, and Sri Ramakrishna often used to give this Shambhavi Diksha, but often, not always.
I have read a little bit of that is written in Lila Prasanga about these 3 types of. Is it? I have a request, if possible, someday, if you can talk about these 3 types of initiation and explain it a little bit. If you have an opportunity.
I also have just what you call book knowledge of it. These details you will find in Kashmiri Shaivism. In fact, Swami Saradanji says that while writing the Lila Prasanga, I studied up Tantra, and in the Tantric books I found this. So in Tantra, it's there, Shambhavi Diksha. In Kashmiri Shaivism, it is there, Shambhavi Diksha. And the different kinds of Diksha are there, yes. All right, then. Yes, thank you so much.